Hello, everyone. Can we hear me? Can we see me? Can we hear me? Can we see me? Yes. Yes, I hope. I hope we can. Let me see here. I was having some technical difficulties because, hey, I don't have any of my students here to actually make me good at the tech. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, I see a lot of familiar faces. E-faces, I guess you could say. How's everyone doing? Excellent. What do we got? How many, where are people from? Let's take a look. I'm very curious. What do we got here? Hmm. Uh, Forgive me, I'm like a chipmunk. I'm just eating a cracker at the moment. Sorry if you can hear it in my mouth. Let's see here. John Gray, hello to you. Let's see who we got here. Gaming Joe, Gaming Dojo. Good to see you again. Let me see. I know it's gross, that sound. Alyssa, good to see you as well. Grace, good to see you. Winter Linda, hello. Winter Linda, excuse me. Uh, yeah, the heat is pretty rough here too, Alyssa. Minnesota? Where else? Where else are people from? I think, do we have someone from Pennsylvania like yesterday? Anyone from outside the US? Oh, thank you, Gaming Dojo. Yeah, the chain breaker. It's actually in the background. You can probably see it here behind me. I need to get to mount it on the wall, but you can see it to the. Oh no, you can see it kind of to my. Am I going the wrong way? There it is. You can see it's back there on the wall, kind of up against the wall. Okay. Toronto, hello back. Welcome back, Big Braden. All right. Late in Germany. Yeah, I believe it. Okay. So we got some Germans, we got some uh Mizzouans, which I've heard some people say before. So maybe I'm just making that up. We got what else we got? Anything else? All right. Well, Chicago. Love Chicago. Great city. I was there doing some research for a while on anarchist movements. It was fun times. Okay. So, what should we do today? I have two things I would like to do. The first thing is I know yesterday I said I might be able to show you all an artifact because yesterday, and I know maybe not everyone here was on the live stream yesterday. I have a ton of artifacts just like all over the place in this house. And I got documents and such. And yesterday, we talked about one of the sort of aspects of fascism. Okay, we sort of mentioned how women there's this sense of a very strange sort of gender stuff that goes on under fascism, and we mentioned a bit that the Nazis um, they had a program for German mothers. All right. And the idea here was is that they basically viewed women in Germany. This is a slight oversimplification, but only very slight. They basically viewed women as baby making machines. Okay. The whole point was that German women were expected to give birth to the next generation of good German patriots, pure blooded Germans. Okay. And the Nazis implemented a program where they had a series of medals that they would give to women who had a certain number of children. All right. Uh, don't quote me on this. I believe it was something like bronze, silver, and gold. It was a pretty standard like coloration of each of these metals. And a friend of mine, when I was back in grad school, went to a flea market in the southern part of the country. I believe it was Georgia. And he found an object there and he immediately recognized it because of conversations I had had with him. And he purchased it for me because he knew that I would want to make sure that I would probably want to have it and would want to preserve it because the person who was selling it was probably unaware. He told them, but they didn't really care too much about what it was. So I'm going to show it to you and I'll show it to you here. I'll try to put it up against the camera. You can see here, can we all see this? Can you see it pretty well? I'm going to go back here so I can make sure you all are able to actually see this. Do you see this little thing? If I can get it close enough. Ooh. if you all can. Uh, Okay, you can kind of see it. There's a swastika in the middle of it. All right. This is a silver Deutsche Mutters cross, I believe it's what it's called. Okay, it's kind of hard to see. All right, and it is a someone obviously brought it back to the United States from their time over fighting in Europe against the Nazis, and it is an award that would have been given to women, I believe, who had, oh, I can't remember the number. I think like 6 children. All right. And it even says in German on the item. Well, first of all, on the back, I really wish I could get this camera to focus better. It actually has Adolf Hitler's signature, not like his actual signature. It was sort of you know, it was built into the metal. It says on the back here, 16th of December, so December 1938, Adolf Hitler. Okay. And this item, okay, it is it says on it Deutsche um der deutschen Mutter, which means the German mother. And yet, thank you, Winterlinda, das Mutterkreuz. Okay, I'm sorry if I pronounced the Kreuz wrong. Again, I can read German. I am not as good at speaking it. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, I'm surprised you haven't seen one. I know when I've always wondered. Well, I'd have to. I mean, not that they're like just hanging around in Germany anymore, right? These medals, but I would hope that there are some in some museums or something over there. Um, uh, this is one of those medals, okay? The silver medal. So whoever got this was having a lot of babies for the Reich, okay? Or at least that's what the point is, okay? Thank you to the German mother. That is what it means in German. So again, these were real things. I remember if one of my debates, or not debates, one of my reactions with my father. I remember there was a gentleman. Oh God, again, I don't want to use the word gentleman, but there was a person on there who used the phrase "founding American stock," which is just very strange, and it just kind of reminds me of that whole Nazi sort of eugenics breeding type thing going on. Okay, pretty crazy. All right. So, and that of course, I don't know if that's he wouldn't want something like that, but okay. So let me quickly look at some of these chats here. Couple minutes late, maybe, but howdy, neighbor from Buffalo, New York. Um, what I was going to say was Geez, my brain just had a massive fart. Oh yes, hello, New Yorker. I actually used to live. This is not the same as New York, obviously, but I used to live in New England. I used to live right outside of Boston, so I went to New York quite frequently. Love New York. Buffalo is a great city, has some good food, and of course, you probably know that's where Buffalo chicken wings come from. Uh, Very snowy there, though. I'm pretty sure it's in the snow belt, but it's a great city. Um, what else do I got here? What else do we got here? We had a little cold front. Yes, yes. I'm obsessed with weather, folks. It's strange. I really like tornadoes and stuff. I'm always watching tornado videos. Maybe we could do that sometime. I think they're super interesting. So weather is super interesting to me. Let's see here. Oh wow, you go see a couple minutes late. Can you say that one? Dust. Yep. You got me so interested in history that I took a history course this time. Oh, that makes my day. Thank you. Because I think everyone should take a lot of history courses. And I know that's not really possible, but it's super important. Super, super important. And a lot of folks, and don't, for those who are in college or have graduated or have scientific backgrounds, this is not me saying it's you, okay? But a lot of folks who either go into, for example, business or the STEM fields, I found that a lot of times they don't have that background as much. And they could be very, very bright, for example, in physics, chemistry, marketing, or whatever it may be. But there's sort of a hole in their knowledge when it comes to historical context and understanding things like that. Um, and it's just something I've noticed, and I wish we could kind of fix that. And of course, on the other hand, there are some humanities, liberal arts people who don't know much about the science stuff. I guess I'm kind of lucky because I actually went when I went to college. I got a degree in history and a degree in biological anthropology, which is sort of a sciencey thing. But a lot of people do not. I don't think are exposed enough to that sort of stuff. Okay, let's see here. Everything I learned something new. Uh, so that's so wild. Oh, okay, you guys okay? To the German mother, that's so wild. Yeah, isn't it crazy? I can show you guys more stuff. My grandfather actually brought back a bunch of things from his time in Europe. We actually have an entire Nazi flag, and every member of his unit signed it. Um, and of the unit he was in signed it, and I'll pull it out for you sometime. I could tell you kind of a funny story about that too. We also have an armband that he captured, a Hitler Youth armband. We have a Luftwaffe hat. Now it's kind of falling apart, but we do have quite a few little trinkets and stuff that my grandfather brought back. And it used to be kind of disturbing to me because my dad used to bring it out like around Thanksgiving time, and we had these big windows in the front of our house, and he'd be like, we need to think about, the past, and we need to think about what your grandfather did, and he'd pull out all these all this Nazi paraphernalia. And I'm like, oh, I hope no cars are driving by, and peeking in and seeing this family of white people holding up a giant swastika flag. So it always got a little bit of a little disconcerting, but still very fascinating stuff. Um, we also have some pictures of him over there. So okay. Um, yeah, every big braid, and every time I learn something new about the Nazis, it's so insane. It's almost hard to believe. It's not real life and not some super villains from a movie. Hey, Big Braden, I feel you there. That's one of the reasons I got so interested in it. It was something I had so much trouble comprehending because it's just so. It really is. The more you learn, it's almost it's. I can't even put into words, right? It's like crazier than fiction, right? Some of the things that went on, um, and the mass death. It just you can't even comprehend the numbers. It's yeah, okay. Let's say, speaking of what you did see, did you see the candidate for the California governor's tweet about Auschwitz being his 0% unemployment plan? He doubled down and said he wasn't joking. Oh, well, that is quite disturbing. I did not see that, and I will look that up because that is dark and disturbing and not funny if that's what he was trying to do. I actually have not been to Auschwitz. I would really like to go sometime. I've been to Dachau, which is a different concentration camp. It was a very impactful experience, but that's really disturbing. Thank you for telling me, though. I'm going to definitely look into that. That's cool. I had great grandfathers in the war, but I don't know much about them apart from what that they weren't soldiers. One was an electrician sent over, and I think was a carpenter. So I will say, Big Brain, if you're interested in looking more into what they were doing, if you have their names and such, there are a lot of great resources online, and a lot of them are free, and you can track their movements across Europe. Maybe at some point I will do a stream where I will give you guys those resources. You might be able to find out what they did. So it's very interesting. It's so interesting, Gaming Dojo. It's so interesting that one of the leading physicists right now, Edward Witten, had a degree in history. Right, it is. There's a lot of interesting people that have degrees in history. Um, there's actually, weirdly enough, I could even say the alternate of that. One of my favorite anthropologists slash historians. Well, I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite, but a really good one. His name is Jared Diamond. There's some things about. I'm sorry, I'm being kind of academic right now. I'm kind of being nuanced. He's a good guy. He writes some great books. He's actually an ornithologist. His expertise is birds, but he writes really great books on like how civilizations fall apart and stuff. Um, uh, dead, uh, Death died today. Hello, Death died today. We need to chat because you offered, and I will take advantage of that at some point on Discord because I think I mentioned everyone. I'm kind of a moron when it comes to Discord because I'm older than a lot of the folks that use it, and I really need some help with it. But we will talk about that sometime. Death died today. Let's say his nail is Kyle Langford. He's disgusting. Yeah, I am getting that impression from what you told me. Oh, sweet. Didn't know there would be public info on it. Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a lot of public info on the movements of American troops in Europe. All right. So, folks, let's get into some content here, shall we? Right? That's what it's called, content. Um, First of all, I was able because of the our members, folks who actually subscribe for a membership and they pay me a bit to do it. I was able to get some more software, and I'm going to be able to upload some really great videos now with much higher quality and graphics and things like that. So be looking out for that. And what I want to talk about today um, is you notice that in the live stream, the live stream title, right? It said that rednecks are badass. All right. Yeah, kind of clickbaity, I admit it, but hey, I'm willing to do it if it gets people in here to learn something. Um, let me explain what I mean by that. So, just a quick little let me see if I can. I want to figure out. There we go. I can make a poll. Let's do this real fast. I'm going to put a poll in chat. I just want to see everyone's responses here. Have you ever heard of the Battle of Blair Mountain? Let me finish this up here. Blair Mountain. Okay. Start poll. Ooh, it's my first time making a poll. This is fun. Okay, so let me see what people say here. So, no, excellent. Okay. It is not something that is commonly taught about in high school, in American schools. Um, and it, unless you're in an AP class or like a college level class, in which case it's only lightly covered. But it is has to be one of the most interesting things that have occurred in American history, in my opinion. Okay. On a side note, folks, I forgot to mention this. We're doing again a super chats today. Again, not the end of the world if people don't want to do the super chats, but I did put we have a goal of, I think, 10. And if we get 10, you can ask me some personal questions if you'd like. So we will do that. Okay. If we get 10 super chats, but if not, not the end of the world. Let's continue. So the Battle of Blair Mountain. Okay. Oh, you guys are going to like it. At least I think you're going to like it. I hope you like it. So, does anyone know? So, okay. So the redneck, the term redneck, did not come where you think it comes from. So, I have an image up here. This is an image from near a little bit after the Battle of Blair Mountain. And let me just give you a little background here. I'm kind of using this as a guide so I make sure I get all the points in the narrative correct. I'm not going to read it direct like completely, okay? So, West Virginia, great state, okay? Uh, great West Virginia is a great state. Tons of mountains, beautiful mountains. Lots of coal in those mountains. The Appalachian Mountain Range, because of plate tectonics and stuff, a lot of coal gets pushed up into the mountains, and with the mountains, I should say, and a great place for coal. Okay, so there's a great coal mining tradition in the Appalachian region of West Virginia. Um, and back in the 1920s, early 1920s, like 1921, and a little bit before that, during the Industrial Revolution in the United States, that coal became very important to power the Industrial Revolution. So these big coal companies had massive operations going on in the mountains of Appalachia. Okay. And but they did not treat their workers well. Anyone here shocked about that? Probably not. Okay. Not at all. Very low wages. As a matter of fact, those low wages today in West Virginia, it is a very low income state, very poor. This goes all the way back to the coal mining days. Okay. The people there have not been treated very well by the big companies that have gone in there to extract coal and other resources. And it was even worse. It was very bad at this time, to the point where coal miners actually lived in towns that were owned like a town owned by the companies that they were mining for. They didn't even use American currency. They used company notes. So the company would pay them in company notes, not dollars, and then they could only use those company notes in a company store for company products. Sounds kind of unpleasant. Bruh moment, you're not the first one that has said that to me. I am not sure what's going on there. Maybe I need to check my settings because I get the impression a lot of people aren't getting the notifications. Did anyone get a notification for this stream? I You might have to actually click it to make it notify. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But yeah. So if anyone had, do tell me if you got a notification. I would like to know so I can see if I need to uh, fix that. So these towns, okay, these coal mining towns, were very diverse. We're talking a lot of these coal miners. They were not all white. There were a lot of black coal miners, black and white coal miners working next to each other in the coal mines. And there were sayings at the time about how, when you're in the coal mine, you're all black, right? When you go into the coal mine, you get coal dust all over you. You can't really tell the difference between skin color. These folks were black and white working in coal mines together, getting paid very little, having to live in a company town, um, and not only that, the coal companies had bribed or literally bought out all the politicians in all these towns, all the sheriffs, and they often had their own private police forces that they would send out to go after miners who were thinking of unionizing. Okay. So if any coal miner started unionizing, you might get beaten up by uh, a company, a security person, company policeman. All right. Um, and Florida Landia, yes, I would say yeah, okay. There are some sort of things today that are similar to company towns. Regardless, so at this time, they could actually have their own private police forces. Okay. Well, let's continue. Um, so, this is what ends up happening. Okay. Um, These coal miners got very angry for a number of reasons. One, there was basically a sheriff that was working for the coal mine who was very corrupt, and he murdered uh, a coal miner. I believe he also murdered his wife. And the coal company didn't do anything about it. So another lawman who was not corrupt, which was very rare, went to confront him in the middle of a street, and a all hell broke loose. A gun battle broke out between the coal miners and the corporate security agents. Okay, service. The good lawman, whose name geez, I really ought to know this. Oh, Eli Kemp, I believe. Yeah, Eli Kemp was shot, killed dead in the street. Okay. And this started a conflict. That was called the Matawan incident. And it escalated from there. These coal miners were sick and tired of how they were being treated in these coal mines. All right. So they started organizing, and went and got their guns, a lot of guns. Okay. And they decided to hell with it. If the company's going to treat us this way, if they're going to kill us if we try to unionize, if they're going to beat us up if we try to unionize, we're going to go take the coal mine for ourselves. We're the ones that do the labor anyway. So they took up a bunch of weapons. I'm going to show you some images here. Okay. If I could get that, if I could get a better image of that, that'd be perfect. I don't know if you know what, I'll move it over. So here we have an image. Remember, I said black and white Americans next to each other. At this time, folks, very unusual. You know what? How about if I move it this way? You'll see it a little better. There we go. I don't know if you can see this image right here. Right here, this one. That is uh, right. I really want you to be able to see this up close. Okay, that is right here. Here we go. This is a black coal miner next to a white coal miner, and they are manning a machine gun. They actually stole machine guns, and they began fighting with machine guns. They also took up a bunch of No, you know what, John Gray? I think you're right there. That would be a better way to do it. The miners had some machine guns. Okay, yeah, literal class war, right? Literal class war. They got guns and they went up to the top. They started walking towards the peak of Blair Mountain. Blair Mountain was where their coal mine was, and they were going to take that coal mine, and they were done. And they finding out what had happened, the corporation, the big coal mining company, sent over mercenaries and corrupt lawmen, and they formed a defensive perimeter around the coal mine, and they prepared to meet the miners. Okay, and boy, did they meet the miners. It got bloody. Okay, an all-out battle broke out. That's why it's called the Battle of Blair Mountain. The miners were shooting at the coal company. The coal company shot back. The coal company actually rented out machine guns as well, and they set up machine gun nests and were mowing down some of the miners. The miners wouldn't give up. They would go back up the mountain. They would try to outflank them. They would do all this stuff, and they got into an all-out battle. And this stretched on for a very long time. I want to show you here uh, this image right here. Open a new tab, just like I was recommended to me. And okay, you can kind of see it. This is actually the Washington Times from the time. Air Fleet ordered to West Virginia battlefield. It got so bad that the government decided to send in troops. Yeah, they decided to set. Yeah, there. The good question, Big Braden. This is where we get you see what the government does, because this lasted for a long time. This battle, they were locked in this literal life or death battle for a while. The government decided to send in troops. Um, want to go to the three dots in the top right? You know what? I will. And there we go. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's fantastic. Okay, so you don't need to kind of see some of the stuff in here that I'm blocking, but uh, the government decided, okay, that's it, we're done. We are going to send in troops. They sent in troops. They sent in National Guard, and not only that, they sent in airplanes with bombs. Now then, let me make one little note here. Those airplanes actually, funny enough, I don't know if you want to call it funny, they think they sent something like 3 airplanes to go start bombing the miners. And unfortunately, I think 2 of those 3 airplanes actually crashed because of accidents on the way there, which is kind of funny in my opinion. And then the third one actually didn't drop its bombs, but they were planning to. On the other hand, the corporation, the mining company, actually hired a private airplane, and they did start dropping bombs on the miners. Literal bombs, like a bomber, a biplane bomber. They started dropping bombs. I'm just trying to emphasize this. They started bombing the miners. Okay, this was an all-out battle, if not a war. Okay, it is thought that most of those bombs did not hit their targets because the coal miners were not stupid. They were hiding under a tree canopy. It was hard to see them. But that's how severe it got. Now, one of the problems, by the way, yeah, okay, government protects capital, absolutely. Um, what else we got here? Let me just read some of these before I tell you the sort of the kicker to this story. Geez, I'm only familiar with the high school like Los Alamos. Yeah, okay, what year was this? I missed it. 1921 is when this actually happened, and it's not talked about much in American history, even though it was a massive issue in America. Um, for some reason, this is reminding me of the rebellion in Athens, Tennessee, right after World War II. Hey, that's a fairly that's actually a fairly good comparison in some ways. Right click, okay, this sounds like some actual work. Yep, okay, renting. Yeah, okay. Oh, you answer. Okay, way to go, 3 dot rank, go figure. Okay. Yeah, you give the government the choice of protecting people or protecting property, they will always be choosing property. Yes, in a very many cases, yes. Sometimes I will say, just a slight amendment to that, Big Brain. Sometimes they will go for the people if the pressure is enough. But you're right. In most cases, they'll go with the business owners in a lot of ways. Okay. So what happens? What does this have to do with rednecks? Let me remind myself here. Let me remind you all here what I've been saying. This was not a bunch of white coal miners. This was a mix of black and white coal miners fighting side by side with weapons against a coal company who was bombing them and literally trying to kill them. And the government ended up sending troops. I'll explain what ends up happening here. Okay. Uh, the government, the federal government, the state government had essentially lost control of large swaths of West Virginia. I mean, it's mountainous. It is hard to control, but it was just complete anarchy going on. All right. When you're fighting in a battle like this, it is very hard sometimes to identify who is someone you need to shoot at and who is someone you need to not shoot at. So these coal miners, they ended up deciding to all wear red handkerchiefs around their necks. Rednecks. The original meaning of the term redneck were these kind of badass miners, both black and white, who fought in a vicious battle on the top of Blair Mountain for their right to live and their right to get fair wages and their right um, to not be treated like chattel. Okay, and you can imagine, I could probably find a newspaper article for you or two from the time that talks about how these rednecks are trying to ruin everything, blah 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 blah. Okay, and these the red. So that is where the term redneck comes from. It comes from these pretty cool uh, yeah. Okay. These pretty cool guys, both black and white, by the way. When we think of a what we would call a redneck today, there is this image that comes to our mind of, I would guess, a white person, right? But at this time, this was both white and black folks, okay, fighting next to each other for their rights for higher wages against a vicious coal company. And that is where the phrase comes from. Rednecks, okay? It'll give you a different view of the word redneck. Um, and it is kind of stuck in our public consciousness over time that rednecks are like, oh, they're rednecks, they're gun-toting lunatics and stuff. And that was sort of put in our minds by media and stuff during the time of this event. And the media at the time was also not too happy with the idea of white people fighting next to black people. And so they really went after the white miners in a lot of ways. So that is where the term comes from. And uh, to an extent, yeah, I was saying, yeah, the idea of redneck in modern day is not the same as it used to be. And I'll tell you what, though, I've had to teach people, and I've known people, I've been friends with people who self-identify as rednecks. Some people do self-identify, and oftentimes when I've told them this story, they feel a tremendous amount of pride welling up within them. Um, and when they realize what it actually means. But yeah, you're right. A lot of the folks, some of the folks who do say the rednecks, sort of have a distorted view of where the phrase comes from and what it means. But let me finish the story now, okay? What ends up happening here is that the government sends in troops, and the miners, who a lot of them had been veterans who fought in World War I for the United States, thought that the government would be coming to help them because they're like, how could they be coming to stop us? We were veterans. We fought for this country. Alas, when the National Guard got there, the National Guard demanded that they put their arms down. And I'll show you this other. Let me show you this picture here. I go to one here at the top. This is an image of a National Guardsman actually disarming some of these coal miners. I love this image. If you look closely here, you can see they are not happy, these coal miners, okay? As a matter of fact, the coal miners, when they first saw the National Guardsmen approaching, they kind of yelled out to them and cheered, thinking that they were there to help them. And they couldn't bring themselves to shoot on the National Guardsmen because they too had been veterans who fought in World War I. And the government disarmed them. And that was the end of the Battle of Blair Mountain. The Union was eventually broken. The company basically won that fight. Now, what this did do is it inspired years later a bunch of reforms and stuff. But a lot of times the memory of Blair Mountain is forgotten, and you can still go up there today. As a matter of fact, okay, you're right, Big Braden, the death stare back there. As a matter of fact, uh, they never really cleaned off the top of Blair Mountain after this happened because it's such an unknown site. And you can do a quick, I'll do a quick search. You can do a quick search of people that go up to the top of Blair Mountain today, and there's still guns just laying around, rusted out guns, because no one has really gone up there and cleaned up after it. So let me see if I can find an image here. Blair Mountain. Let's take a look. Oh, well. Okay. Blair Mountain rusted guns. Yeah, here's a great image right here. You know what? I will open it in a new tab as per the, oh God, jeez. Well, this is a National Rifle Association site. Don't get me started. But hey, if they have the picture, I'll use it, right? But don't support the National Rifle Association, okay, please, for a lot of reasons. Okay, so here, look, here's an image of shell casings just sitting up there. They're still up there. People go up there all the time, and they've made it a historic site now, so you can't remove anything. But here's a rusted out gun. It's still up there. Okay, and there is a memorial now. Okay, now here's where it gets complicated because those coal companies, some of them still exist. And there was a push for many years in the 1990s. The coal companies wanted to regain control of that mountain and they wanted to blow the top off of it, as in literally dynamite, blow the top off of it. And why? There isn't really any coal left in that mountain, but they did want to blow it up anyway. And they fought tooth and nail with the government with like the local government, with historical societies to get the chance to blow up the top of Blair Mountain and destroy the site where this happened. They lost that battle, but today they still occasionally will try to regain control of Blair Mountain, and there is a lot of thought about it being they do not like that memory of Blair Mountain. And I want to point out here, I can actually show you an image. Someone asked me if there's a memorial. There is, in fact, a memorial there. Now, there's actually a little museum there. I recommend everyone go and see it at some point in your lives. Here we go. You can see, I'll this open up a new tab. Let's see if this works out. Okay, Battle of Blair Mountain. There's this little memorial there at the site. There's like a little museum there about the coal wars because there were a number of like literally violent conflicts over the coal wars. Yeah, hey, John Gray, you're absolutely right. Okay, if anyone, I think you're referring to the Tulsa massacre, the Tulsa riot, where the black part of the community, it was basically called Black Wall Street. It was a very affluent black community. It had a fair amount of wealth going into it, and the white part of Tulsa could not did not like that. So they literally just went in and destroyed it and killed a tons of people. Um, yeah, and there are other things that have happened like that too. Uh, all right. Yeah. Let me read some of these comments here. Just reminder, folks, we do have 10 super chats to reach our goal. If not, though, again, not the end of the world. Let's take a look here. Okay. Of course, the state is there to reconcile the differences between the capitalists. Oh, excuse me. Woof. The difference between the capitalist and proletariat, largely favoring owners, though you would use this definition if you were a Marxist. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay. And hey, I largely agree with you. Okay. You're right. Let's see what else we got here. I think I heard something about the red handkerchief being the origin, but not the whole story. Yeah, that's the whole story. Okay. So really now, yeah, we got that one. Interesting. The term now refers to a stereotype that would favor private property. Oh, bruh moment. You're on to something. Okay. Favor private property when the term comes from a workers' revolt. Right? And folks, I got to admit to you, before I learned about that, I had this sort of conception in my mind of what a redneck was. And after you learn it, you're like, oh, I see why we view rednecks that way, right? Because it's very beneficial for certain people that we view redneck in that sort of a negative way. And I will say there's a really good book. I know I've recommended like one book before, called the 300-year-old history of white trash. That is the name of the book. I think the author, Eisen, I think her name is Eisen. I was going to say Isengard, but that's only because I love Lord of the Rings. And she actually traces a lot of how, poor white people have been horrifically mistreated throughout the history of this country. As a matter of fact, yesterday I talked about the eugenics movement, where they were sterilizing people. And for those who don't know, sterilization is where you use chemical or surgical procedures to prevent a person from reproducing. Police would actually this is not an exaggeration. Police would actually take vans up into the foothills of like West Virginia and Virginia, and they would kidnap people, including children, take them to a medical center, sterilize them without anesthesia. I repeat, without anesthesia, and then take them back. They would sometimes even do it where if someone was getting a procedure in a doctor's office or a hospital, and they were under or they were getting some other procedure, they would sometimes sterilize the people without telling them. And not that long ago, there were a bunch of lawsuits filed from people who only years later figured out, oh, that's why I can't have kids. Because they had been sterilized without their consent, because they were viewed as racially inferior or mentally inferior or any other kind of inferior. So anyway, just some of the dark history here that we can talk about. All right, let me see what else we got here. Refer to stereotype that favor private property. Okay, the guy in the back is giving the death stare. Yes, he was. All right, that's insane. I know, right? And you don't really hear about it. Is there a memorial? Yes, yes, indeed. I'm hoping they cleaned up any casualties. They did. Now, the casualties are disputed. It is thought that around 100, so the official casualties are about 100 miners died, but there was not a good count done. And you know what? Let me go back to that article. They might have more information because I know historians typically say that the count was you can't really it wasn't terribly reliable. Okay. And you can imagine with all that shooting and with machine guns and with bombing of airplanes, which again didn't hit anyone, apparently, it would have been higher. But let me see here. There were several days of hell fighting. Um, So, it doesn't really say here, but I believe 100 is the number that was stated at the time. But it is generally viewed that there were a lot more people that died than that. And if you just look at images from the battle itself, uh, you can kind of see that it must have been more than that because there's just so many people shooting at each other. Um, I'm trying to find some good images here. I can show you. Here's an image. Oh, here's some of those miners. Uh, Posing with their weapons. As a matter of fact, these guns were actually fire very small bullets. They're basically for shooting small game like rabbits, squirrels, and stuff. But they didn't care. They took them up the mountain and they went to war uh, for their rights and such. Um, and here's a great image here. I've seen this one before. You can see here. Remember how I said, I'll open that in a separate tattoo because here's another example of what I said. When you're in the coal mines, race doesn't matter because you're all the same color. Um, Let me take a look here. Open link, a new tab. All right. So here we go. You see this image? You notice this man is not white. These folks are white. This guy over here is not white. They're working together. It is not, they're not segregated. Okay. I'm not saying that there wasn't some racism going on. This was 1921 at the time, but at least in the coal mines, this was a racial coalition fighting of working people fighting together. Okay. Um, so, okay. Let me read some more here. Do or more meat? Yeah, okay. Is it okay? Canada. Okay. It's an amazing title for a book. I totally agree. A 300-year history of white trash. Great book. See here in Canada as well. What happened to I'm definitely going to talk about that sometime. What happened to Indigenous people? Didn't Hitler use that as inspiration for the T4 program? Bruh moment, as always. Excellent comment. Yes. I think I mentioned this yesterday. Hitler was inspired by America's eugenics program. And they used a lot of the laws that we had when they implemented their own sterilization program. As a matter of fact, during the Nuremberg trials, when some of these Nazis were put on trial, their defense attorneys pulled out an American law book and started reading from it, and basically said, "Does this sound like, you know?" Asking the American side, like, "Does this sound like something that violates people's human rights and such?" And then they turned around the book and go, "Ah, well, that's funny. These are American laws." But anyway, yes, that, and we have to come to terms with that. That there were some inspirations there that Hitler took from America. Another thing, by the way, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, is that Hitler loved American westerns. I mean, like Western movies, Western books. He had his own private movie theater and he would sit for hours watching American Westerns. He thought they were amazing, and he viewed Eastern Europe as Germany's Wild West. Who do you think the natives were in that situation? Okay, that would be the Russians, Slavs. I mean, Slavs generally, people in Eastern Europe. And he thought that Germany could kind of do the same thing that Americans had done out west. So again, this is not, it's, there was much more inspiring him than just that, but he did love American Westerns, and he spoke very fondly of, he did compare the two, the Eastern Europe as the American West. Um, okay. Uh, let's see here. Who was kidnapping these people in West Virginia? John Gray. Yeah, you got me there. I cannot remember. I believe it was local. It was either local law enforcement. You know what? Let me look it up for you real fast. Here, people kidnapped and sterilized. Oh, geez. Again, the FBI is gonna love my chat, isn't it? Okay. Let's take a look here. Uh, okay, that doesn't help me much. United States. You know what? We'll put in people kidnapped and sterilized, United States. Okay. Um, oop, All right. So, okay, immigrant homes were federally funded. There was one okay, in the 20th century. Okay. Um, oh, by the way, here's a map. This is a great. I'm actually glad that I went to this site. Here's a map. So, these are the states that had uh, who had laws in effect that allowed for people to be sterilized. The ones that are sort of uh, uh, have a crosshatch through them. Okay, this might be surprising to some folks, but the state that did this the most was California. And I say that it's surprising because eugenics was part of the progressive movement. It really was. Now, it was heavily mixed in with sort of an evangelical Christianity belief about the elect and the non elect, amongst other things, and it was utter pseudoscience. And the eugenics, the progressive movement had tons of other beliefs that were fantastic and actually really helped the country. But the eugenics aspect of their beliefs, not so great. Okay. They thought it would help society, but this, it did not. Um, all right, so I'm sorry. I'm looking for who would do these things. Um, I'm very sorry. I cannot find it right now, but I will take a look at it, and then next time I will find it. But yeah, it was definitely there were definitely some people kidnapped because I actually read documents about it and such. And maybe there isn't much information online about it because some of these documents are kind of obscure. But anyway. Okay, let me see the rest of these chats here. Okay, who was kidnapping these people in West Virginia? Yeah, I'd wait. I think several countries have put a travel advisory on us. Yeah, I think that actually is true. They'll say I can be Canadian. I can see Trump do some stupid things like suspend Canadian passports, and then I'm stuck there or something. Yeah, that's something I'm worried about. So I have a friend who was traveling overseas, and I was kind of concerned that they wouldn't let him back into the country. If anyone knows Hassan, the streamer, the live streamer, he kind of was held up at an airport because he had made some comments, some political comments, I think, on Israel and Palestine, and they kind of held him up at an airport for it. Okay, is that so terrifying? We're living, yeah, we're living in this horrible echo of history. Hey, John Gray, I feel you. I really do. It's scary sometimes for me. I mean, a lot of the time. Yeah, yeah, John Gray, actually. There are some great books written about it. Oh, what are they called? If I could remember all these things off the top of my head. Uh, I'll try to remember the name of the book. There's a great book about the eugenics program in the United States. It's a very thick book, but it is very traumatizing to read. Um, so yeah. Uh, okay. Whereas the German Western author Karl May depicted the American natives as morally, yeah, you're right. You're actually right. As a matter of fact, strangely enough, Winterlinde in Germany today, is it not the case that a lot of folks, for example, when they dress up as something, they'll dress up as Native Americans. Like a lot of folks in Germany, I know in the 1990s they did, in the 2000s they did, a lot of people in Germany will actually dress up like Native Americans. And it's not a sign of disrespect, it's sort of an admiration for the sense of like returning to nature, and things like that. I'd love to hear your response to that. I've read about that, and there's a lot because there's, I'm sure as you know, there's a lot of Germany has sort of pagan roots, sort of this. Uh, yeah, there's sort of a cultural trend there of closeness with nature, Wanderlust, as they would say. Um, and yeah, so there, don't get me wrong. So obviously, there have been Germans who are extremely not pro native, but there are also a lot of Germans historically who have been very supportive of Native Americans and respectful. Okay. Um, and the Communist Manifesto, bro, moment. The Communist Manifesto is baby talk compared to even something like Wage Leader of Yo, get. I've read Capital, my friend. I have read. Yeah, it is a big book, and I actually took an entire class in graduate school where it was just sitting and going page by page through Capital and trying to understand Karl Marx's arguments. And it is a lot to deal with. Okay, and folks, for those that are listening, uh, it is a there's not just because someone reads, and I am on the left, I'm going to be honest with you, but you can read Capital and not be a communist, okay, or not. uh, it is also an academic way of looking at the world. Karl Marx created a whole different view of what how the economic system works. So economists read Capital, and a lot of them are not Marxists. So just be aware, it's always good to be educated on that variety of things. I'm just saying that because I'm in America and there's a lot of sort of Cold War stuff still going on, fear of Marxism, fear of communism, socialism, those kind of things. I'll continue reading comments, but just a reminder, everyone, we have a super chat thing here. If we get 10 super chats, uh, maybe I need a different reward. But we love to see some super chats. You can, for I think as low as $2 or something like that, you can send a super chat, and we will, if we get 10, we will do a personal Q&A. And I can actually tell you, I will even tell you, that's what I'll do. Here's a good way to bribe you all. I will tell you a story about my run-in with a former Nazi when I was traveling overseas. Um, I was with my dad too, so it was kind of a fun story. So anyway, that'll be a good way to tempt you all. Okay, read a little more here. We got quite a few comments. I'll move on to the next section here in a second. I promise you. I just want to get through these. Yeah, I heard Hassan was questioned. It wasn't saying yeah. Um, Yeah, you're right. I would say there was the one guy who just had a meme of JD Vance on his phone. I mean, who doesn't, right? I mean, he's extremely memeable. And I'm in Ohio, okay? I grew up in Ohio, and he was born here. I'm not exactly proud of that. Okay. Um yeah, he's very outspoken on Gaza, very true. Um Definitely not a big fan of Hassan, but yeah, it's insane to be held up. Yeah, I totally agree. Um Yeah, I agree. Okay. Oh God, I haven't read Capital. It's so huge. Yeah, it is very huge and gives me a headache thinking about it. Okay, we're still experiencing the after reflex of the Red Scare. Absolutely. Yeah, Winterlinda. Yeah. So thank you for responding. It is. We are more aware of your cultural appropriation thoughts about that. But in the 1960s, 70s, more or less, Karl May's books were adapted to movies in Eastern Europe. Yeah, absolutely. It's very interesting history there of sort of the German relationship with and Native Americans and things like that. Um, and you're right. And by the way, folks, yeah, I'm glad you brought up cultural appropriation, Linda. I have some issues with the phrase. Okay, I actually have a degree in anthropology. I know all about cultural appropriation, but everyone always appropriates culture all the time. Everyone does in every culture. Uh, and So, if anyone here, when I said, Germans will dress up like Native Americans, just realize that like in this case, it's a sign of respect. All right. And Please don't take it as sort of insulting. There are ways, excuse me, to appropriate culture that can be a bit rough, but um, yeah. And the effects of lavender scare, even, yeah. hmm Absolutely. Okay. So, what shall we do now, folks? I did want to talk about one thing here. I mentioned what yesterday, a couple days ago. Uh, yeah, you're right. The Washington Monument, bruh moment, uh, is an obelisk, okay, which is not an American thing. That goes back to ancient times, ancient Egypt, and such. Okay. All right. So, okay. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if it's demeaning, if cultural appropriation is demeaning, Big Braden, I totally agree. I do feel that the conversation though gets a bit too. A lot of the times, it gets a bit too. I don't know what the phrase is. Yeah, but yeah. Um, okay. Uh, all right. So we talked about fascism, did we not? Don't we always? Because I have an obsession with it, kind of. But the We talked about one definition of capitalism. Geez, fascism. I don't know. That might have been a Freudian slip there. Anyway, we and I wanted to. There's another definition of fascism that I wanted to share all with you with because, like I said, there isn't really a defined definition. There, academics debate this all the time, and each uh, each academic has a different view on it. Each fascist movement was sort of different. They never appear the same way twice. So I'm going to introduce you to another academic here who tried to write a different version or had a different idea about what fascism is. So let me type this in real fast. Um, Palingenic ultranationalism. His name is Roger Griffin, by the way. Anyone interested in looking him up? Nationalism. Okay, here we go. That's what I wanted. That's the exact document I wanted. Okay, so let's take a look here and let's see how he defines fascism. And then again, just like we did last time, folks, I want to see what you guys think about applying this to modern day America. I think this one is much bigger. Okay, so Roger Griffin, he's English, all right, English historian, political theorist, etc. Really bright guy. He, and again, this is very academically phrased, so I will try to uh, kind of translate it a bit. He said that the core of fascism is something called palingenesis. That's a beautiful word. You know what? I'll write it I can write it in the, you can see the word up there. Okay. That's palingenetic. Okay. Palingenesis. That means sort of rebirth. And he said that fascism is the following. Fascist movements, the core of fascist movements, uh, attempt to inaugurate or create a national or ethnic rebirth whose ultimate aim is to bring about a revolution in the ethos and culture of society that would impact every sphere of social life. And he really focuses on this as a reaction against secularization. Okay, so the loss of religious values and modernity, like Umberto Eco did. So what does this mean? Palingenic ultranationalism is the idea that you're ultranationalist, which means that the nation matters above all else. Okay, your nation matters above all else. Um, so yeah, okay, it is you're ultra nationalist. Nothing else matters, just the nation. Palingenesis, so palingenetic ultranationalism. You believe that your country is superior to everyone else. It's the best country on the earth, and you seek a rebirth of that country. Anyone know what a palindrome is? That is a word that is spelled the same forwards and backwards. So race car, for example, it is spelled the same. If you flip it around, it's still race car. That's like a palindrome, palingenesis, rebirth, or like uh, yeah, like a switch. Yeah, okay, a palindrome is like switching something around. Okay, so in fascism, there's this idea of we want to like kind of return to a mythic past of some sort that will push us forward. Like a palindrome, it's the same forwards and backwards. So we want to return to some sort of mythic past that in most fascist societies never really existed, to be honest, and uh, allow it to push forward into a better future. Let me tell you something. I can tell you how this applies to modern day in one phrase: make America great again. That is the definition of palingenic ultranationalism. We need to return to a mythical time where the country was better and cleaner, and where America was, actually able to be itself and doesn't have all this uh, sort of filth. This is the words fascists like to use. Okay, filth over it. As a matter of fact, the Nazis. This is a really gross word, and if for the Germans in chat, please, if I know I may pronounce this wrong, Rassenhygiene, the idea of racial hygiene, is just the idea of like clean race, cleaning up the race. Uh, make America great again. Yeah, you're right, Big Braden. That's the thing too. Is it really? Uh, when we talk about a sort of mythical past in America, right? This make America great again. I think I said this before. At what time? For who? Because I'm sure you can guess there have been things in American history that definitely aren't great for certain groups of people. All right, the Battle of Blair Mountain, right? It wasn't great to be a coal miner in West Virginia. Black Americans, a lot of history there where it was not great. Okay, still is not great. If you are a sexual minority, LGBTQ. Okay, so what now? I am curious what you think. What do you think he means by "Make America Great Again"? What time do you think he wants to return to, or when do you think he thought America was at its greatest? While we're doing that, reminder again: we got super chats. If anyone's interested, let me quickly go through some of these comments. Um, Thank you, Ariana. Thank you very much. All right, we got some comments here. I knew I shouldn't have mentioned cultural appropriation, but no, I mean it's good to talk about it. But let me see here. Um, Also, in the 1960s and early 70s, Native American clothing was fashionable and not considered. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, it was considered an act of solidarity. And by the way, folks, that's not the only time we've seen that in history. That happens all the time. Let me give you an example. Most the leaders of most nations in the world will wear a tie and suit when they go to like an international event. A lot of those places, that's not where the tie and suit came from. Like if you see the leader of China wearing a tie and suit, that is not a traditional Chinese garb, for example. That's a European type of garb. We the I could give tons of other examples. Well, I guess Modi of India doesn't actually wear shirt and tie and stuff, but they would technically be doing cultural appropriation. But is it really cultural appropriation? I mean, we can talk about like it becomes very complicated. And so Okay, yeah, but like saying some 8-year-old girl is culturally appropriating because she wanted to be Cleopatra. Yeah, no. See, that's what I mean. Okay, um, cultural appropriation can be very harmful. Do not get me wrong, but in a lot of cases, it's not. And that is every culture does it. Every culture appropriates. Our culture has appropriated, especially in America. We have a very diverse culture. Like if you ever go to a Mexican food restaurant, what's that? If you ever have pizza, I mean, well, pizza might be a little more American. Well, it did start in Italy, but I mean, it becomes problematic if you're actually like demeaning a group. But all right. Palingenic ultranationalism or how yeah, it's palingenetic. So if you look up here on the screen, you can see the word palingenetic ultranationalism. Okay. John Gray, laughing. Okay, exactly. The Statue of Liberty is from France, and we took the concept of tipping the British, and now they're yeah. Okay, this is called uh, well, not cultural blending. There's a word for it in anthropology. I mean, all cultures do this. You know, cultures take from each other, they borrow from each other. Guns, for example, like gunpowder, was a Chinese invention, and now it's used everywhere. I mean, you get to a point, right? Now again, if you're dressing up in a way that is purposely who was the guy from the one of the royals from the UK who dressed up like a Hitler Youth, I think it was, and went to like a party? That would be an example where you might not want to do it, okay? Or dressing up like putting on blackface. That is they still do that, by the way, in the Netherlands, and I don't care when I've talked to Dutch people who defend it, and I'm sorry, I can't defend it, maybe because I'm an American. But yeah, so there are ways to do it where it's horrific, okay? But I think a lot of the times it's sort of overplayed. Um, okay, let's see here. Yeah, okay, what's the difference? Oh, yes. Okay, so here we go. Fascism seems, Big Braden again, seems to always change depending on what the fascist has to do to achieve their goals. So I feel it can be very different. It absolutely is, and it never appears the same way. And in a lot of cases, the leader is all about themselves. So a lot of times there is a kind of a lack of ideology there. So it depends. Not to be dramatic, but oh no. Let's say, what would you be dramatic about? Is it cultural appropriation? It's okay if it is. I understand. And I would actually like to hear what you think because I like these sort of discussions. There's not really a right or wrong answer. I guess it was just my sort of perspective, but I'd love to hear yours. Okay. Uh, Mr. Microwave, what's the difference between an ultranationalist and a fascist? So you can be an ultranationalist without having a palingenetic myth. So you can have an obsessive love of your own country where you view it as superior to others and only care about the nation without kind of having this mythical desire to rejuvenate the nation. Um, I would say, for example, Saddam Hussein was somewhat of an ultranationalist, but he did not. Well, that's not a good example because there were some palingenetic things going on there. But you can technically be ultranationalist, I suppose, and not have that sort of myth at the center of it, of returning to like a greater mythical past. Um, Big Brain in a mythical time when there were, yeah, okay. Anya, my understanding of an aspect of cultural appropriation is removing. Yes, that you phrased it better than I could, Anya. Okay. My understanding of an aspect of cultural appropriation is removing from cultural context and gaining from work creations done by oppressed peoples. Yes, mass produced gene. Yeah, okay. You know what, Anya? You're right. And I actually will stand slightly corrected there. Okay. I think my definition was not. Uh, was perhaps too broad, but if that's the definition that if I that may be a newer, I mean that may be the definition that people think of today is like the idea of profiting off of the work of oppressed peoples. Oh, if that's what it is, then hey, I am 100% opposed to that because that's all that's been done in America. I mean, a lot of that has been done in American history and around the globe, and we should not that is horrific. Okay, or well, maybe not horrific. I mean, it's very bad. I keep using the word horrific. That's why I'm trying to change it up. Otherwise, everything will sound horrific. But yeah. Where is Zombies 1993? Where is part 3 for the Jubilee video? Well, There are actually what? There are 3 parts out now. I guess it would be the 4th part that you would want to see. We have not done it yet. We're taking a slight break from the Jubilee video. I think we're kind of both tired of it, but we will actually be doing another reaction video very soon on something else. Um, okay. Sorry, very slow typer, Anya. Hey, it's fine, no problem here. Mr. Microwave, bruh moment. But don't ultranationalists also view the nation as above all else? Yeah, they do. I'm not sure what bruh moment said, but yeah. Uh, isn't he a fan of the early 1900s? Who is a fan of the early 1900s? Uh, sorry, please let me know in the chat. I've always think about the Reagan, oh, the Reagan era. You know what? We will definitely talk about that in a stream at some point because I am sick of all the bootlicking when it. Sorry, that's my left wing coming out there. All the irrational love levied towards Reagan. He Yeah, I'll talk about it at a different time. Okay, there's a lot to go over there, and the effects of Reagan have been devastating. Okay, it's a cult in nature. What is a cult? Geez, I am losing track of the conversation here. It's a cult in nature. Okay, Winterlinda. Then Disney did cultural appropriation with all their. Yeah, hey, that's a great example, Winterlinda. There a lot of fairy tales come from Germany. And by the way, Winterlinda, you probably know this. If you've read any of the old German fairy tales in German, they're kind of disturbing. Like in Cinderella, don't they end up cutting off her heel or her toe so that her foot can fit into, or one of her sisters does, so her foot can fit into the shoe? And so, our love of watching those, is that cultural appropriation? Those are German fairy tales. Okay, the Grimm brothers. Again, I don't want to go off too much on cultural appropriation, but it's just something to think about, right? But again, I liked what Anya said. If it's taking the work of oppressed people, and then profiting off of it. Oh, yeah, no, 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 no. We do not. We should not do that. Okay. I know I traveled out west. I was stopping at some places, and there were a lot of stores and stuff that were not owned by natives that were selling native related things that a lot of times weren't even made by natives. That would be an example of something I can't stand. Okay. Um, all right. We literally took our big braid and we literally took our whole political systems from the yeah. Okay. We did from the Romans and the Greeks. And if you look at how our buildings in Washington look, they have columns. They look like Greeks. They look like Roman. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Gosh, we got these chats. I'm sorry, I keep going on the chats, but there's a lot of good chats. Um, Thank you, Prince Harry. He's the one who dressed like the, I think, SS soldier or the Hitler Youth. All right, folks, I am going to pause reading the chats for now because I'm kind of getting caught up in it. Very good conversation going on here. Let me talk a little bit more apologetic ultranationalism, and then I'll get back to the chats. For those who have joined us, please, if you like the stream and you want me to do more, if you would like to support the channel, my father and I, support our reaction videos, you can send us a super chat, or you can become a member, or you can subscribe. You can share the channel, do whatever you can to help us educate more people and spread the word. Okay, so um, let's talk a little bit more about this. So, palingenic ultranationalism, right? The idea of going back, having a rebirth in the country. Um, there are, and it's a reaction against a lack of religion or a secularizing of society, and it's a reaction against uh, modernity. Okay, rationalism. Remember, we talked about yesterday how the irrationalism of fascism. They do not like rationality. Any sort of critical thought is viewed as diverse and a threat. Um, so we can see that sort of modern day. And I will say, if we were to guess what decade, for example, a lot of the MAGA folks are thinking about when they say return to a mythic time. Does anyone have an idea? I'm going to go back to the bottom of the chats here. Hello, we have someone from Denmark in the house. Hello. Okay. Um, so what decade do we think they would be trying to go back to? Now, someone yesterday mentioned trad wives. I'm curious. Because I have a guess. I'm sorry, I know it's disgusting for you to listen to me. Um, I would guess it's the 1950s, specifically white people in the 1950s who lived in these. Yeah, well, thank you. That was okay. Very good. The idea of like these families where the mother would stay at home, the father would go to work. And at that time, a man could go to work, for example, and he could make enough to afford enough for his wife and him to live without her working. And there were many more unions. A lot of people were unionized at the time. They felt that they had more influence in their workplace. There was the people were given basically subsidies to help them buy houses if they had been GIs during the war. And there were, by the way, much higher taxes on the wealthy at the time, much higher taxes on the wealthy. And this is sort of the 1950s is viewed amongst a lot of conservative stuff as like the best time. Okay, one of the best times. Uh, now, yeah, there you go. White picket fences and atomic families. Now then, folks. Oh, the Gilded Age. I actually agree with that. I actually heard a conservative recently talking about how we need a new Gilded Age. I'm like, oh, please, no, let's not go back to that. Extreme wealth inequality, abuse of workers and stuff. Um, yeah, you're actually right, bro. Moment. If you look at a lot of these calculations, wealth equality is worse now than during the Gilded Age. Okay. Um, so but at the same time, what else was going on during the 1950s? First of all, conformity. You had to conform in the 1950s. Everyone, you couldn't sort of step out of conforming to that atomic family, okay, with a man, wife, children. Um, and if you were not white, well, this was before the 60s, folks. It was not great for you at all. You would be forced to live in certain neighborhoods. You'd be segregated. There was still tons of violence happening against Black Americans. It was not a good time for a lot of people. Gay people, not a great time. Okay, not a great time at all. So, if anyone's ever read The Outsiders, which is a book I set in the 1950s, it kind of is a commentary on that. Being an outsider in the 1950s. And McCarthyism, yeah, McCarthyism was horrific. There was massive crackdowns on left wing people at the time. There was a fear of nuclear war. Um, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the 1950s is often sort of presented as like a perfect time, um, and for America, even though we know what for it was may have been pretty good for a certain very small kind of people, right? White Americans, middle class white Americans, um, and so it's interesting that that's sort of what a lot of folks look back to. I also actually would do this. I would do this thing with my students where I would post actually ads from the 1950s on the walls. I'll show you one, and I would have them tell me what does this tell us about culture in the 1950s. I'm going to show you. They can be a bit disturbing. I've had to sort of, I guess you could say, censor them when I've taught freshmen this, but uh, ads, women, 1950s. Um, a lot of these ads would try to present just okay. This is one I've seen before, and this one disturbs me. Open link in a new tab. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Brace yourselves, folks. I mean, something about this one really disturbs me. Here it is, right here. Do we see this? This one right here in the middle. If your husband ever finds out you're not store testing for fresher coffee, you can see what he's doing to her. Okay, he's hitting her. Um, now, uh, and yeah, I can read it for you. It says, if he discovers you're still taking chances on getting flat, stale coffee, woe be unto you. For today, there's a sure and certain way to test for freshness before you buy. So it's just an ad for coffee. But the idea here, hey, now, admittedly, some people might be into this sort of thing. Hey, I'm not judging, not judging. I'm just saying, obviously, the ad is not trying to refer to that, right? This is extremely violent. I mean, maybe not extremely violent because it's very violent, but it is violent, right? It's very violent. And she seems perfectly happy with it and fine that her husband's beating her. Now, yeah, just a little bit of domestic abuse for your ad, okay? I can show you a different one. Um, uh, I here okay, this one too is I think this one actually might be from the 60s, but there were still some of these ads going. I mean, there's still some of these ads going on today. No, no, this is the 1950s. Here you see these two men standing on a mountaintop. A woman is down here, barely holding on, about to fall off the cliff. He's kind of holding her, and it says at the top here, "Men are better than women. Indoors, women are useful, even pleasant." Even pleasant. Okay, on a mountain, they are something of a drag. So don't go hauling them up a cliff to show off your Drummond climbing sweaters. No need to. These pullovers look great anywhere. On the level, entirely fashioned. Okay, the rest is just describing the product. Yeah. So again, the 1950s not great, not great for women especially. Um, so anyway, we there I could show you there's more of these, but we'll stop there for now when it comes to those images. But yeah, so a lot of times this palingenic ultranationalism is sort of calling back to that time. Sorry, there is one more I want to show you that wasn't in there. Uh I'll see if I can well, I'll just tell you about it for now. It's an image of a man, okay, and on the ground is a rug. It's like a rug. You know how people will skin a bear and then it'll be like a bear skin rug? In this case, though, it is a woman skin rug, and her head is still there, and he has his foot on top of her head, and it's an ad for like rugs or carpeting. I mean, that's pretty brutal. I don't know what else to say. Um, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got the Red Pill podcasts, the Manosphere and stuff. This is disturbing because a lot of this stuff is coming back. And there have been a few instances in the last few years of actual femicide where a man will go out and murder a bunch of women because they're women. Um, what are their names? Sorry, there's so many shootings in this country. I can never differentiate between which one is which, and I can never remember their names. But there was that guy, I believe, in California who went and killed a bunch of women because he was mad at women. I mean, that's femicide. Now, a lot of times media sources won't talk about it that way, but that's what it is. Um, uh, yeah, okay. Yeah, right. I mean, I do. I lose track, and it's very infuriating to me because anyway. So yeah. All right. So again, folks, please send a super chat if you'd like to send a super chat. Let me see what we got over here. Some of these more of these chats. I am going to be going here in a moment because I am hungry and I need to eat something. But regardless, I will read these chats and then we can end the stream here pretty soon. Let's go see here. Not to be dramatic, but the article sounds like the article. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go back up. I'm missing some. Yeah. Okay. Prince Harry, demographics of Republicans. Okay, death died today. Yeah, I'm sure Trump is aware of the demographics of Republicans, and then being a group of older folk that were alive with Reagan plays into that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, what article sounds like Trump? Am I? Yeah, maybe I missed it here. Oh, you mean the ad? Yeah. Okay. Everyone says you're dramatic. Says Trump is acting fascist, but like, what kind of shoe is this? Right. Okay. Yeah. But I'm sorry. What? Yeah. But if the shoe fits, I know. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. I know. I know. Whenever I've said this to I get that a lot when I'm talking to people. They'll be like, "Oh, don't be dramatic." And I'm like, hey, I'm telling you what academics have said the definition of as a fascism. And then you can say for yourself whether you think it meets that classification. But I know I kind of push that talking point. But um, I will say this, though, folks, admittedly, we have not reached yet, the point of like a Nazi Germany. We just haven't. We are getting very close. I am not trying to downplay the problems here. We have camps, we have these sort of detainment camps and stuff. But we have not, I guess, if there's one positive thing, we haven't been launched into a global war yet. That, not again, not defending it, but yeah, but there are definitely some fascist elements going on here. I hate Ronald Reagan. Yes. Yeah, I'd say Trump isn't acting fascist. He is a fascist. Hey, I didn't say it. You said it. Okay, I hate Ronald Reagan. Join the club here. Okay, fair enough. So you're a teacher by day, and now you're a teacher by night. LOL. I say that because you're teaching us here on some stuff. Yeah, you're right. So I'm on my summer vacation, which is going to end in a couple weeks. So I'm almost done with the summer vacation. Yeah, but I will be teaching again during the school year, which I would really like to be able to do this full time. I feel like I can reach a larger audience. Hopefully I will be eventually. So I'm going to continue to try and build a channel, and hopefully I will be able to do this full time. Um, I will miss my students though terrific horribly, but let's see here. More and more every day. Okay, for a moment. To be honest, I'm not even sure if Trump can understand. Yeah, no, he doesn't. See, that's the thing about Trump, though. He is non-ideological. Trump is about Trump. He doesn't really have a set political ideology, which actually is good for us. I mean that because Hitler definitely an ideologue, Mussolini definitely an ideologue. My concern is if you don't fix the system that created Trump, eventually you are going to get an ideologue in there who has a program and who has a final solution for the problems of the country, if you see what I'm saying. So, yeah, that actually is one of the positives, if you want to call it that, is that Trump is about Trump, if you want to call it a positive. Okay. Greetings from Denmark. Yes, hello, my friend from Denmark. Uh, reminder to like the stream. Thank you, Death Died Today. Yes, please like the stream. I'm begging all of you. No, you gay. It's not the end of the world if you don't hear. Okay, white picket. Okay, Gilded Age, equality versus Gilded Age. Yes, I read a bit about society at the time because I like punk rock music. You're right. The rebellion, punk rock music was sort of a rebellion against the 50s. Yeah, and I got a confession for all of you. I was a punk when I was in high school. Literally, I had the chain, I had the buttons, I had all that stuff. And I actually colored my hair for a little bit, but anyway, I still do like a lot of punk music. It's not, I wouldn't say it's my favorite anymore, but I do like a lot of it. Oh, geez, I shouldn't have said that. If any of my students hear that, it's just going to be a nonstop uh, comedic remarks for the rest of the year. Okay, anyway. Um, I hope, yes, I do hope for a moment to be doing the live streams during the school year. We will see about it. They'll probably be in the evenings, but yes. Okay, let me go down here. I want to see. I'll be honest. When I heard alligator Alcatraz, oh, geez. Okay, Winter Linda. You, yeah, darn it, you made me not as hopeful. You're right. The Nazis did gain power 7 years before the war started. So, who knows? Maybe it's ahead of us, right? I really, yeah. Way to dash my hope there. Um, Okay, so many the palingenic ones smash the like keyword yet exactly. Not as close. Yeah, okay. Oof, yeah, alligator Alcatraz, folks. I mean, this is cruelty for the sake of cruelty. I honestly one of the most disturbing things I've seen. I actually have a true social account. I know. You can criticize me. I have it because I like researching these things. I think it's important to see what the other side is saying, and the amount of glee that people on Truth Social were spouting about the idea of alligator Alcatraz is truly disturbing. I mean, it was outright glee. Like, ha ha ha, they might be eaten to death by alligators. They might drown in the swamps. I mean, cruelty for cruelty's sake. I don't, yeah. Um, what would just what was going to comment? Oh my God, I didn't get the notification. See, again, someone else didn't get the notification. I need to figure out why that keeps happening. Yeah, maybe you all should. Maybe if you want to see when I go live, maybe make sure you have your notifications sent to all, including live streams. Yeah, yeah, I am going to be wrapping it up here in a couple minutes. So we have talked about a lot today, guys. I'm very happy about that. I'm going to do my little reminder here at the end. Please don't forget to resist. Remember, one of the easiest things you can do to resist is think for yourselves. That includes when you watch me. Okay. I am human. I can make mistakes. I can even believe what I'm saying. And who knows, maybe I got two neurons off that are just not firing right. And I'm telling you something that is completely not true. Okay. So verify, 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 resist, think for yourselves. And remember, the way to end fascism is to reform the way the country is so that people stop feeling alienated. All right. Um, and please don't lose hope, because one of the problems that we're having is there is such the outlook is so bleak that people lose faith in any desire to do anything. Okay. They feel like it's hopeless. We need to have a positive vision of a better future. I know that's easier said than done, but we absolutely need a positive vision for the future. Okay. All right, folks. And on that note, yeah, resist, eat your favorite Chinese food, and fight. Don't you appropriate that. I'm sorry. I'm sounding like a right winger when I say that. Um, yeah, trust but verify. Great. Yeah, Long Beach Dragon. Correct. And I'm saying that I make mistakes too, by like, as in, I will be reading something, or I will be watching someone on YouTube and I will hear something and I'm like, oh, and I won't question it. Everyone does it. It's a human trait. But please don't question everything. Okay, do your own research. Think for yourselves. Um, all right, way easier said than done. Yeah, okay. It is way easier said than done, and it takes work. It takes actually kind of combating yourself internally to do it, but it's an important thing to practice. All right, folks. Well, if you haven't yet, please like. If you subscribe to the channel, if you're not subscribed, I would love for more people to sign up as members and help support this channel, so I can hopefully eventually do this full time. We also have a Discord now. There's a community on Discord. If you go to Discord and search at Casual Revolt, you can be added to our community. There's been some great discussions going on over there, and sometimes we'll go live and have a group discussion about things. So if you're interested, please go over there. Alyssa, I actually added you. Uh, I saw that you had added, I guess, added me or whatever, and so I actually added you to the stream. You might need to go in there and like confirm it. I did add you to the stream. I'll look for it again, but it should be. I did add you, Alyssa. So okay, all right, folks, keep strong. You got this. And don't forget Chainbreaker back there. Many people have died before us to keep to protect us. So, all right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.